All right, hey guys, Dev with Crime Hive, and we're talking about the Letecia Stauch case and tidbits that are taken from that case. And one of them was there was a ransom note tip that investigators received in the Letecia Stauch case, and that's what we're going to talk about, is that tip. Investigators ultimately found the tip to be some sort of fraudulent scheme with someone or some people trying to say that they had Gannon, and in return for Gannon, they wanted Bitcoin. So we're going to talk about that. Before I get into it, again, you guys can always subscribe to my channel. Real simple. You guys can get updates as I come out with new cases and mysteries, and we'll go from there. So let's dig back into this case here. So first thing I want to talk about is about the right here. I'm going to pull this up here. So this tip line, this comes from the affidavit right here. And what you can see is, let me see if I can pull it up a little bit more here. Okay, so right here, this comes directly from the affidavit that talks about how investigators, they actually took steps to try to figure out this ransom note, who it came from. So they were using geolocation to try to get the IP address from this person, and they even tried to request subscriber information from the ISP to try to get a name, address, and it just didn't work. They just weren't able to trace the information. So that's kind of what we're talking about right here. And so, why do the criminal element choose Bitcoin? The thing is a lot of people thought it was completely anonymous at the time, and what we've learned over time is, it is good in the fact that there's no middleman. There's a lot of anonymity to it, but what people are saying nowadays is that these transactions are recorded on a blockchain forever. So it's not as secure as you would think. So there's actually decline in the criminal element using Bitcoin. But anyway, that's just a little tip there with this particular case. But this individual apparently wanted Bitcoin in return for Gannon. So what investigators started doing was, again, they started geolocating. And this is crazy. We're going to talk more about this stuff, the ins and outs of this, how investigators can use these tools now, even on social media, to find out where you're at, where you've been. And one of the things that they tried to do is they tried to find the IP address through an email header. So the email header, if you see right here, again, I'll bring this down here. So the email header, an example of this is just when you go into an email, if you were to go into Gmail, for example, you can click the down arrow next to the reply link and then select show original, and it opens this type of message. And here's an example. A lot of this information comes from where is my IP address. They have some really good information and tips on this. So to explain this stuff, when you're seeing in these messages, this allows people to track your approximate location, and they can fine-tune that using other tracing tools and other resources. I don't want to get too crazy in that with this video because we're just talking about the case, but that's basically what investigators started doing. And your ISP, if you're wondering what is that, typically it's primarily your cable company. It could be through the phone companies, cable companies, and that's basically the hub that stores your information when you're connecting to the internet. So investigators can subpoena that information, and a lot of times they can get your name, address, and other information about you, your phone number, and that's a way for them to track down that lead. But again, investigators were not able to find this information, so it makes you wonder, what was this person doing? How did they make their information untraceable? Now, I'm not a tech genius. Part of the reason for making this is I want to do more segments, and I want to interview people that are very tech savvy, and we can talk about what this person may have done or how this may have happened. How could investigators not track them down? So one of the things that we think they may have been able to do is use a VPN. I mean, that's pretty standard in the online world. If you're trying to mask or hide your IP address, you use a VPN, which is a virtual private network. And again, this comes from where's my IP address. They talk about that, it basically allows your location to be untraceable. It uses encryption data and software to just prevent people from knowing what you're searching online, where you're located, that kind of stuff. So, and that's the number one preferred method according to a lot of different sites out there. Another thing this person could have done, or in addition to VPN, is they could have used Tor. And Tor, if you guys don't already know, is the dark web. It just has this heavy encryption layered with all sorts of security and privacy. It's kind of like an open source deal, and it just makes it harder for investigators to track. Although investigators are online in the dark web, in the midst of that, undercover essentially. So they are finding ways to track people down using Tor. And then you've got, and I'll just move this here again. Then you've got the third and fourth ones that were mentioned include proxy server, which is just rerouting your browser information. So it just kind of goes around other companies or other filters that are being used. And then you've got Wi-Fi. It can be tough to track who that person is using Wi-Fi because so many people connect to the same network, although it makes it compromised, makes your connection compromised, and people can steal your data, and it's not the most preferred method. So really interesting stuff though that we're going to get deeper into in other videos. So it kind of brings back the question, how do you think this person or people sent this ransom note without being traced? This is again, this information was gathered again from the affidavit and the Letecia Stauch case. And if you guys like this kind of information, we'll go further in. I'd like to know your guys' insight on that. Again, subscribe to my channel. I'm all over the social networks now as I build. I'm going to be doing a podcast, and I'm gathering requests for topics that you guys would like to hear about most. And again, this is Dev with Crime Hive, and we'll chat to you guys soon. Take care.